Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. What number is this? 93?
93.
No, yes.
92.
92? Whatever. It's 90-something.
Yeah.
We are in Watertown, Massachusetts. We drove into the city. This is a good friend of Alan's, so I'm going to let Alan do the introduction.
Yeah, so this is Ryan Bliss. He and I grew up together, kind of my brother from another mother, so to speak. My mother and stepdad growing up were very close friends with your family and your parents. And you and I were kind of inseparable for many years there. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's very cool because we get together probably every other month or every month or so, and we get dinner and a movie, and we talk about our life and chasing dreams. And it's really cool. I'm really excited to do this because you and I, as very little kids, used to talk about some of the things that are now coming true. So, could you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. First, I want to say that I like what you guys are doing here. It's very impressive.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on number 92. That's brilliant.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Bliss, and I'm a film director. I've been doing that for the past 9 years now. And Alan and Kevin were lucky enough to watch every single one of my movies leading up to this interview. Lucky or unlucky enough, however you look at it, because there's definitely some progress being made. But I just filmed my first feature-length movie, so that's very exciting. So
similar to us, when we go back and review our old reps, like we were saying, like the one you heard earlier. It's a good chance it wasn't great because it was 30 or 40 episodes ago.
It was charming.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a good way to put it. Do you ever go back? So we were talking about Rot, which is something that you directed earlier.
Yeah.
What is the process for you like when you go back and review an old, you know what I mean? Like, what are the emotions you feel when you do it?
It's only out of curiosity, because if you go back and you like the things you started with, and that's never a good sign.
Yeah.
You almost want to hate it. I have a relatively new girlfriend. We've been going on for about a year now. And after about 6 months, I finally decided it was time to show her all my movies.
Right.
See what she was getting herself into.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I watched Winter Harvest since I made it, and my God, I couldn't get through a minute of it. I had to leave the room, probably because I star in it as well. Because my actor, who I had, backed out the day before, so I had to play the main character. So that's a whole other level of cringe when you have to watch yourself.
Oh yeah.
For me, not for everyone, but and then Rot is just a different. It's almost more of like an angsty, like spilling your guts out type movie. So because of that, I have a hard time watching it because it was just so specific to where I was when I made it. And then from there, I think it gets easier to watch it, But you always see things that you want to do differently. And sometimes that's because you just didn't have the money to do it, or it was just the best idea you had at the time that you realized in hindsight was not a good idea at all. So it's all learning.
But to your point, when you look back at older movies, for us it's older episodes, ideally you want to say like, oh, like, it's got to be a little cringeworthy because that means you've gotten much better.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would consider you a huge master of your craft. For everyone out there, like Kevin and I talk about all in all the time. And for you, you live and breathe movies every day. And all your friends are into movies. Every time you and I hang out, we go to the movies and then we talk about movies. And I've always been in love with film and storytelling. And, you know, I do a lot of that as a speaker.
Right.
And so, like, you grew up in an environment around golf. You had your family started a golf course called Blissful Meadows, which is not far from my house. And then your dad's dad kind of split off, and he started his own golf course in Rhode Island. And I worked at that golf course. So for reference for the listeners, my very first job when I was, I think, 16 or 15 was being a cart kid at Crystal Lake, cart guy.
Cart lad.
And, and a bus boy. And so you and I used to hang out all the time, work together all the time, and all of that. Yep. So one thing that I find fascinating, though, is that you could have very easily kind of ended up in the golf industry, but you always were in love with movies, and you always wanted to be a director since I've ever known you, even when we were 10 years old. Yeah. So we used to actually, for the listeners for reference, we used to make home movies together, like horror movies and stuff with like the camcorder and all of that.
Still got them.
For you, right? I would love to see those again.
You guys should have started with those and then worked your way up.
I know, right? Yeah. Then
we shafted us.
Yeah. Then we would have seen. Then Winter Harvest would have looked great.
Right? Yeah, I know. Ooh, masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. But so you, for all intents and purposes, grew up in a family where you could have been successful. I wouldn't say by default, but by staying in the family business. Yeah. What was it like for you to chase your dreams outside of, the family business?
Yeah. I don't know where my love of I just squeaked really bad there, but keep that in.
Yeah.
I don't know where my love of movies came from, but I remember growing up and my dad would watch a lot of Steven Seagal movies. And I hate to say that that's where my love of movies came from, but I feel like that's probably where my love of movies came from. And so a lot of just like action movies growing up, just Face Off, Broken Arrow, True
Arnold
Lies.
Schwarzenegger. Oh, yeah, I remember.
John Woo.
Yeah.
So, and the idea of getting into the family business was never, it was always there. So I think that's the problem with family businesses is when you grow up in it, it's always there. So it just feels like safe, So it makes sense to want to go against that and do your own thing after a while. And, there was a time there when I wasn't sure if directing was actually a possibility. It seemed like such a far-fetched idea. So, there was probably, in my teens, there was a time when I thought that maybe getting into the family business was probably the smartest thing to do. So, I went to CCRI in Rhode Island to study business, and I quickly realized, well, not quickly, it was like 2 years there, and I never even finished. I never even got my associates. And then I realized that I just wasn't for me at all. So that was when I finally made the decision, like, I'm getting into movies once and for all.
That was when you made ROT, or no?
To film school? So, I went to film school. It was just like a year program, very hands-on. It was like every week you were doing something new, whether it was editing or lighting or camera or gaffing or whatever. So then you can kind of find what you like. And so, which was interesting because I knew what I wanted to do going into it. I wanted to direct. And doing everything, I realized, even more wholeheartedly that all I wanted to do was direct.
Yeah.
So, and editing. I do like editing.
Yeah.
But, for my thesis project, I did Winter Harvest. And I've been, rocking and rolling ever since then.
We have the best job in the world because I'm sitting here. I know how to edit, kind of, in Adobe Premiere, but then we podcast with a Muay Thai fighter.
Oh, cool.
And I think I'm okay at that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when you're outclassed. Oh, when you're sitting across from somebody and you're like, oh yeah, he would kill me. If he wanted to kill me, he would do it with his bare hands.
Yeah.
That's how you are, but with this.
Video editing.
No. Yeah. I'm humble about it.
Oh, you would. But I still appreciate it. So again, that's why I was saying that we're so lucky to be able to do what we're able to do because we get to ask you questions that people probably have always wondered, right?
Yeah, the thing I'll say about that is that there's always someone better. It's very hard to become the best at something. And I thought I was a great editor until I got an editor, Hollywood editor, to edit my latest movie. And then, there were times when we'd share screens and I'd be working with him, and just like seeing him work and how fast he is and like all the shortcuts he takes, I'm like, this guy is just like miles above me in it. So
there's levels.
There's always levels to it. So yeah, I thought it was good, but there's still much to learn for sure.
I think it's important to figure that out, right?
Yeah,
Because then
absolutely.
you can figure out what you need to work on, or maybe you're going to get to the point where I'm sure you're going to have somebody else edit everything for you, right? Is that like the goal?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, to me, I honestly hate being on set. That's my problem. Is like, I love stories so much that I need to direct it because I love stories. I need to be there with the actors. I need to do all that stuff. But I don't actually enjoy myself until I'm editing the movie. But at the same time, most people say, especially your producers, say, do not edit your own movie because you come into it with such like a blind, one-sided view of it that you almost lose focus of the movie, and it just becomes this like personal thing to you. So, I'm still trying to find my rhythm of how I want to go about it. But what I did like with this one is I had an editor, professional editor, come in and put the movie together exactly how it was in the script. And then I can come in and be like, oh, change this shot here. Or let's find a different take of this scene. Listen to that. Let's move this scene back here to see if it works. So I cut myself out from like all of the bad stuff of the movie. So I just don't have to see that because it would break my heart.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see like the bad takes in your own movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As I'm sure you guys have experienced.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hard to listen to yourself on a podcast as well.
Oh, I can't do it. Yeah. You end up hearing like the actors yelling at you or something. Or me yelling at them. And you're like, I'll just cut out that stuff.
Oh, man.
So I get to sit down with you and pick your brain on the film industry. And one of the things that I wanted to ask, I think that, we said this in the preamble, everyone watches movies for the most part or has seen a movie, but very few people know what it takes. So I took Kevin through when we were in Florida. Not only did we watch all of your movies, so Winter Harvest, Rot, Clover, and then we watched a preview of Alice Fades Away. And I took him from, sort of start to finish of your journey, and there's drastic progress each
for sure.
time, which is
Yeah.
huge. So we
Yeah,
always say
I
fail
hope so.
forward. You just keep failing forward until eventually you're really good. One of the things that I wanted to ask, though, we went through your Facebook and went through all the pictures of behind the scenes. Because we say with podcasting all the time, a lot of people are, jump in front of a mic and, you start podcasting. It's so much more than people
my
realize.
God. Yeah, it's crazy.
So anything professional is always more than people realize, whether it's fitness shows, directing, editing, writing.
But isn't that the beauty of it, is making it look easy?
Exactly.
Like the artlessness of art is to make it seem like you didn't do anything,
I like that.
the true masters
When
of their
people start
craft.
thinking about what it took to make it, then you're like, well, I'm losing them with the most important part is to be engaged and engulfed in the story, in terms of me.
No, that's so true.
But also you know,
Yeah.
because you want to talk about the topic at hand. You don't want to have them think about the mics that you're using and the cameras and the lighting. You know,
Right.
you just want them to be engaged with what you're talking about. So
Totally. Interesting take.
So what is something that, I guess an example is like, most people don't understand what we do. Like they think we just sit in front of the mic and then we're like, what are we going to talk about? Well, we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
But there is far more stuff that goes on behind this.
Yeah.
Like we talk for 20 minutes and it takes 5 hours.
Also, how important it is to not have dead space.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Dead air.
there's just so many. There's so many things.
When you
that-
listen to like bad podcasts
Yeah.
and there's just like dead air,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So
trying to
what
find
now?
the next thing to
Yeah.
talk about. You're like,
So what about the film industry or directing specifically? Like, say I don't know anything about it, which I don't. What is something that you can give to the listeners that is like a behind the scenes thing that you learned like early on that somebody would never guess?
I don't know if it's something no one would guess, but just how long it takes.
Yeah.
Just
To make a film?
Actually, filming is like the easy part. Easy in a sense because it's the quickest part. It's its own challenges working with the actors and finding the scene. But what really takes forever is just getting it to that moment. For the camera, for the lights, for everything, wardrobe, makeup, all of that stuff. It takes so long. Traditionally, Hollywood movies, they do about 2 pages of script a day. And, 2 minutes of a movie blows by without even thinking about it. But you don't realize how, you could watch just a small scene. There's a fine scene, but like the lights coming in through the window, that's all artificial light, for the most part. all of that stuff. Every single detail in every scene of a movie that you watch is thought over.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's obsessed over. If it's good, especially, it's obsessed over.
Yeah.
But you don't want people to realize that. I think that's the most important part, is when people start thinking about that, like we said, you kind of lose focus of the movie. But it does take a long ass time to get it all set.
So say you're doing like a 90-minute movie.
Sure.
In your case.
Yeah.
What is that? How long does that take from idea to finished product?
Well, oh my God. I mean, like I said, so traditionally 2 pages a day for script. We were doing like 5 pages a day because we couldn't film. Movies cost so much because it just takes forever to film. So every day is just more money, you know, more time, more people to pay. So we try to, with indie movies, we try to move as quickly as humanly possible in the shortest amount of time without being completely unrealistic. Because if you're doing 7 pages of script a day, you're gonna have a bad movie. It's just too much.
Right.
You know? So I mean, but it's always different too. If it's a dialogue scene, okay, you can get, you know, it's one setup, so then you can do 5 pages.
Yeah.
When it's an action scene, well, that's a lot of moving parts. That's the stunts, but that's also the camera movements, a lot of different takes. So that would be like, you know, we'll have to do a page a day because it's an action scene. It just takes more time. Also, if you're doing weapons or stunts, you know, there's safety protocols and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of, for me, I think even with Alice, it was an outlier because, you know, I self-funded the movie. So a lot of it was just for what money I had at a certain time. But, you know, we shot the first scenes over 2 weekends in February of 2017. We shot, and that was like, I wanted to do that to set the tone of the movie. And also, seeing it's a flashback, it takes place in the winter, and then we can film again in the summer, so it kind of has variety to the movie. But also so that we could show producers and investors and actors and get people on board with the footage that we had, which we did, which was nice. So then we reconvened in the summer of 2017, and we did 3 weeks straight. That was like the heart of the movie on the farmland.
You said that was one of the hardest things you've ever done.
Oh, yeah, it was so intense. Yeah, I mean, yeah, hardest thing I've ever done. It was very difficult.
For the listeners, so first of all, I'm so impressed
Yeah.
knowing you as a kid and seeing the dream and the thought and then seeing it come to fruition is just one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to catch up with you because every time you and I catch up, there's so much more that's progressed. There's so much more that you're doing, you know? One of the things that I wanted to bring to the listeners is like, how would you define a director? Because I remember when you were writing the script for Alice. So you and I linked back up. We were talking a lot on the phone when you were working at your last job before Harvard Business School, which we can get into. And you were just finishing up editing Clover. You were also writing 2 scripts. One was Alice Fades Away, and now that's becoming a real thing.
Yeah.
So you're a writer, director, and editor of your own feature film at this point. What does a director mean to you? Like, what is every role and responsibility that you have to put on your shoulders to really chase this dream?
Yeah. Well, so I'm not the credited editor of Alice, but I think most directors oversee everything. That's the biggest part. Now, I mean, every director is different. You know, there are some directors that are come from like the DP world, which is the camera, so they want to be the one operating the camera.
So DP is what for the listeners?
Director of photography.
Okay.
And then there are directors that want to just focus on the actors.
Yeah.
Someone like Woody Allen or something is like very like they or like even most actors who become directors like Ben Affleck or something, like they're more focused on the actors and they hire the right people just to do everything else,
Right.
which is not an unsmart thing to do. I mean, obviously that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where your interests lie, you know. So for me, I'm a storyteller. That's I love the story part of it. So writing the script is like the most interesting part to me, but then also the editing where it's finding the movie, you know, and then everything else is just
finding the movie. So you sent me a bunch of scripts. I remember at one point you were sending me new scripts every night, and you were like, "Read this,
Sorry.
read this, read this." No, you're good. You're good. I love it. It's 3 a.m. email from Ryan Bliss.
Yeah, read this one
Updated
instead.
Script. Yeah, exactly.
Final copy 2.
Yeah. Final copy 200. But so when what was the term that you used? When you finally see the movie, or?
Yeah, when you find it.
Find
You're
the movie.
finding the movie.
What
right.
does that mean to you? What
Well, they say you make it 3 times a movie. It's
Okay.
when you're writing it, when you're on set, and then when you're editing it.
Okay.
Because you have it in your mind when you're writing it, and that's, it's all
One
imagination. It's great. And then when you're on set and you realize that there's a lot more factors going into it than just your imagination. There's a lot of people. Logistics, sure, yeah. A lot of people with their own opinions, too, which you have to deal with. Yeah, and logistics, well, we can't shoot this scene the way we want it to because it's raining now, and we want it to be a sunny outdoor scene. But now it's got to be indoors. That stuff happens all the time. So you adapt, and then once you have everything, and the problem with being on set too is that like if you're not careful about it, like it becomes not a movie. It becomes a series of shots that you need to get to make the day, which it just takes the art right out of it, which is tough. And then once you have everything and then you start editing it, you go, oh, okay, I have a movie here. You start following the script or you veer away from it and do whatever you have to do to make it work. And then you either learn to love it or learn to hate it. But, that's kind of like the fun of it. I haven't had an experience where I hate the movie that I've come into the editing with, Because a lot of it, too, is like on the day, like, you just come up with new ideas, and you realize what was in the script wasn't working. So you're like, okay, how can we make the scene work? Let's do this instead. So then before you know it, you have a completely new scene.
So percentage-wise, and this is probably going to be nearly impossible for you to say.
With this one, it will
try.
be. I know. Yeah.
So what percent of the original imagination movie
That's not a word.
do you think will be, from thought to fruition, to go
what's
back to
gonna
Kevin's
stay?
point, what's going to stay? Like, what percentage do you
Well,
think?
Alice is really tough because I wrote it so long ago, and like I said, I mean, we filmed most of the movie over 3 weeks in 2017, and then I just filmed the rest of the movie in September of 2018.
Yeah.
So that's a big gap, know. So obviously the movie changes in between those times. When I first went into the movie, when we first started, I would say it's about 60% the same as the original script.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot's changed. A lot's changed.
How do you
For the better, I think.
You're at the point now where you're grinding super hard to make a name for yourself, right? You're trying to get to the next level. That's very similar to where we are. Yeah. How do you stay motivated when it's like, that you shot 3 weeks, however long ago, now you're shooting more, now I'm sure you still have plenty of work to do. Like, what at the end of the day keeps Ryan Bliss motivated?
That's a good question.
It's my job.
Yeah. Getting it done, I think, is just... I mean, ultimately, movies are made to be watched by people, If I all of a sudden I get to a point where I'm like, this movie's unwatchable, I'm just going to tuck it away, which luckily didn't happen. I do like the movie, so that's good. And a lot of directors can't say that. But, getting it done and showing it to people is ultimately the goal. So, you want people to like your movie. That's why we go to movies. I kind of have like a test of whether if I can show my parents a movie and they like it, then that means like it's a good mainstream movie, you know? So I'm trying to like find that happy medium of like making the art movies that I want to make, but also being able to engage people. So I feel like that's like my constant back and forth, So yeah, I mean, it's just finding that balance and I think I think it's just for better or worse, it's just showing the movie and seeing what people think about it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Also, the money that you put into it too, So you put a lot of money into it, and you want to make money from it. I mean, movies are made to be seen and made to be purchased. So if I put all my money into a movie, I want people to pay to see it.
Hypothetically. right.
Hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
I want people to see it at the end of the day, and I want it to be popular, and I want to make my next movie.
How scary is that?
Very, very scary. Yeah.
What made
Terrifying.
you jump to the point where you're like, okay, I have X amount of money. I'm doing this. Like, this is it. I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, it was like that now or never mentality. When you're most afraid to jump is when you jump. I could have waited. There were people that told me to wait, because when we were filming, especially those 3 weeks in the summer is a very popular time for movies that are being made, especially in Boston. There's a lot of movies and TV shows being made. So I was told very explicitly that if you do it now, you're not going to have a lot of people at your disposal because people are just going to take the higher paying job, which is, the big Hollywood movies that come in. They're also union jobs too, which I'm not. So it just makes sense. So right away, we were already, facing an uphill battle of trying to make the best movie we can with not to say we didn't have a good crew, because we did. We ended up finding good people, but my go-to people were already taken. And luckily, like my set in stone people were available. They're like the ones that follow me into battle wherever I go.
I love that reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I would do the same for them, and I have. So it's when you have like a strong core group of people, that's the most important part. So like the core, like department heads, like your DP, director of photography, your AD, which is assistant director,
Yep.
your unit production manager, your gaffer, and then everything else is people that you can find along the way. That
Gaffer for the listeners is audio.
no gaffer
It's not. Oh, that's the lighting.
is
Oh,
lighting.
I apologize.
Yeah.
What's the audio person?
It's just sound guy.
Sound guy. Okay.
I would have been like, yeah, cool. Sounds good, Sounds good to me.
You guys are really good gaffers.
Yeah, we're phenomenal gaffers. no, we're not. Based on the setup, 2 lights here. We were telling Ryan for reference on the way in. I said usually we impress our guests with our production value.
Yeah, yep.
We're not going to impress you.
No, we're gonna have to talk good.
And then on the way up the stairs, he's like, "Are these the lights that I told you to buy 3 years ago?" Yep.
No, they get the job done. I mean, but I'm on set with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment every day. So
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing really compares, unfortunately. But
There's levels. You said you shot Clover with a $25,000 camera.
yeah, the red. It might have been more than that at the time. I'm not sure. It's probably what it is now, but yeah.
Playing in the major leagues, Ryan.
Well,
You really are, man. It's really.
but we
really
went
cool.
up from there. I mean, and the red is a good camera, but we shot Alice on a Alexa, which is like top tier Hollywood film. So
How much in American currency would that run me?
Yeah.
Just wondering.
probably 60,000
Lord.
would be my guess.
You
I
rented
don't-
it?
I
Knew someone?
I knew someone that owned
That's
one,
awesome. It's always about who you know.
That's
Network
what I
is
was going to
key.
ask. I was going to say, so
which I rented it, but I rented at like a great fee.
Yeah,
exactly.
how important is that for you to get opinions, to get support, to get like constructive criticism, feedback, to have people that are in the know, also directing, they're in Hollywood, whatever it may be. You become the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? That's
Yeah.
a legitimate thing, right? So
Yeah, totally.
how important is that for you to surround yourself with like-minded individuals?
It's very important. I would say there are probably like 5 people, like you said, that I would show the movie to get honest feedback about. And then, if you show your stuff to too many people, you're going to get feedback about everything that you do. And then all of a sudden you're
You're going to question everything.
yeah, you question everything. And then if you try to appease everyone, then you just end up with a jumbled mess of something. So,
Yeah.
I show it to my friends who know my view of movies and what I'm trying to do.
Your vision.
Yeah, if they get the vision, then they can at least see like an end point, and so they know what I'm going for, and they'd be like, "You're losing track of that goal right here." So maybe this is somewhere to address that, So, collaboration is so incredibly important. I think that's why a lot of good directors go bad after a while. Not to name names, but there are directors who have just been in the business for so long that they start believing that they're, the best there is, which they might be, or they might have been at a certain time.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, if they don't think they have to show their movie to anyone, you end up with, wackiness. You need someone to reel it in and be like, hey, we're making a movie here. Let's not forget that. We're not making your your dream that you came up with. Like it has to be. It starts with a dream, but it's got to be a movie. It's got to, it's got to hit those points. Whether that's a 3-act structure or some levity to make your slasher movie, a little not so depressing like that. That's important.
Rot. No, I'm kidding.
I know. Well, totally. That was Rot. I wasn't listening to anyone, and I just went in with this vision, and I thought it was going to be, the most honest, beautiful thing that, and it's. I mean, there are good parts to it, but it could have used a more structured view. Like it would have been a good horror movie. And instead, I ended up with this weird hybrid drama psychological thing. Which, is nice, but...
So if you could go back, Kevin and I talk about that all the time. You look at your old work and you think, okay, I've gotten a lot better. So that's good. It's much better than looking back going, I used to be great.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you could go back and do Rot over again, and I want to bring in some context to... Because Rot was kind of your first real deep dive into like bankrolling your own
totally.
short film. And I remember... you were going through a really hard time. And for reference on this podcast, we talk about post-traumatic growth a lot. Mm-hmm. You listened to the last episode, 91, I believe, with the 2 Marines. And they said that when the pain is great enough, you'll change. Mm-hmm. And I know you went through a really rough time before Rot. So 2 questions, really. One is going to be, if you could go back, what would you do differently about Rot regarding collaborative work and showing it to more people? And then number 2, can you go a little bit into what made Rot come about? Because for me, as your friend, that seemed like the real transition to all in.
Yeah. I mean, I was just young. I was in my early 20s, so I thought that, I think you think you're more important than you are in a certain sense.
For sure.
When you're at that age.
We've all been there. Oh, yeah. Episode 1, everyone. Episode 1.
So you think, like, if you have this honest opinion about something, like, people are just going to flock to it.
Yeah.
Which is just not true. You know? If I could go back, I would make it more of a genre film. I would make it... So there's a thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, like, there are, like, different kinds of movies, and there are confessional movies with genre elements to it, or there are genre films with confessional elements to it. Mm-hmm. And so I was making a confessional film with genre elements, which was, some horror stuff sprinkled in. But when you step back and look at the movie, it's this, dramatic breakup, weird psychological thing, very existential.
Yeah.
So if I was to do it again, I would put that stuff in the background and bring up the scares more. I'd make it more maybe not necessarily jump scary,
like a thriller.
but more like a thriller. Yeah, exactly. More mystery based instead of existential based. So yeah, I mean that movie. I was listening to like Bob Dylan a lot, like Blood on the Tracks. It was very which was his breakup album.
Yeah, right.
But little did I didn't think about it at the time, but Bob Dylan was Bob Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
He had 15 years of being Bob Dylan, the greatest songwriter of all time before he made Blood on the Tracks.
Ryan Bliss.
Yes. My masterpiece.
Yeah.
My 20-minute masterpiece.
Yeah.
This is the one.
After a tough breakup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I got out of a bad breakup, and that was my time to shine was to put it all on the screen. How I was feeling.
I just love how you can look back and laugh about it though, because I think that's
it was 8 years ago.
Yeah. But I guess
I couldn't for the longest time.
I'm sure
it made me cringe for a long time.
But one of my biggest fears is being one of those people that's like, yeah, I used to do that, or I used to look like that, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I tell you all the time, I'll run into people who say like, I used to look just like you, and it's like, I don't think you did.
Yeah, and by the way, if you did, that sucks because you've come way downhill. Yeah.
I don't want to ever.
No, my big fear is like when I'm like 50, like talking to my kids, like, yeah, I was a director one time.
Yeah, exactly right.
You want to see my movies?
Yeah.
Like the kid's like, no.
By the way, he is one of the best sense of humors ever.
I love
we
this.
always laugh at our asses
I just
off.
met him today, so this is the first time we have ever met, and I'm absolutely loving this. So I think this is a unique question because this has happened a lot to us lately. I've been teaching people how to podcast, giving them the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
If a young up-and-coming director, like just getting started, came up to you, what advice would you give them that maybe, like, just to jumpstart them?
Be realistic, I think, is important. Don't jump. Don't go in over your head, because there's only so much a first-time filmmaker can do. I mean, I've had people who would help out on my movie almost like an intern, and they'd work, and they're fresh in the industry, and they just want to take any job they can because they think they have this golden idea of a movie. And they're like, oh, can you read my short film? And it's like this World War II, like just epic. And like, you're not going to make this as a first-time filmmaker, as a short film. Like, it's just, maybe someone could, but it's more than likely not going to happen. So having realistic goals for starting out is very important. I mean, a part of the reason I made Rod was I just made it on my house. I knew to work within my range.
Yeah.
But also be daring in places that I knew I could manage, Like,
I thought the makeup was awesome.
well, that was what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about the movie, but the makeup in that movie
it was great.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
And that to me was like getting outside my comfort zone, But also, like, a lot of that movie too is like the back and forth between him and his
Other self.
his alter ego or
Yeah.
whatever, his id,
Yeah.
and so obviously having to do reverse shot of without the actor, because usually you have the actors reading across from each other and you do over the shoulders or whatever, but the actors are always still there even if they're not on camera.
Yeah.
But because it was the same guy, we had to do all his scenes without makeup and then
then
flip
all of them
and
with.
then do all the scenes with makeup, and that was a challenge
For
sure.
sure.
So things like that, realistic challenges, I think are very important. And then build, and then, okay, the next one I want to do this instead. Clover to me is just a straight like experiment in action. Like the story is whatever, but it was just an excuse to get to the action scenes to see how I could direct action, which is just something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
you said that the filming of Alice, those 3 weeks, I remember when you and I first went to the movies, I don't know, this is probably 6 months or 8 months now. I don't remember how long ago, but I remember you, and the first time after you filming Alice, I remember you just being like, that was the hardest thing I've ever fucking done.
yeah.
Like, we're just and I could see it all over you. Like, that was a challenge. This was like right after you finished.
Yeah.
And you're saying set realistic goals. What about that experience would you go back and do differently? Because you clearly jumped in the deep end with the sharks, but you found a way to swim though. Like, you're still alive, right?
So I think my biggest skill is being able to find the movie and the editing, and so even in like we were saying before, it's like if you don't get everything the exact way you wanted it, there's always a way that the movie can come out that's just as good, if not better,
Yeah.
So, a skill that I've had is seeing what we have and being able to kind of, throw it in a pot and make something beautiful or whatever. But, but what would I do different?
Yeah. Because you said have realistic goals, so it sounded like when you first told me that you maybe went in over your head a little. But it seems like you came out okay.
I think anyone that's a first-time director is going in over their head.
Okay.
A first-time feature film director.
Yep.
Because features are a completely different beast than short films.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any way around that. I think because Alice is a period piece, that was really tough, So having the wardrobe be authentic, the hair and makeup, the vehicles, the locations for a very low-budget film, that's tough to do. But at the same time, I wouldn't go back and make a modern day film. So that that's just what it was. I think that's what makes the movie unique. I think there were scenes that we ended up cutting for pacing issues. But again, this is pretty common in movies. So it's it's like, man, I wish I knew to cut those scenes in the script so that I'd have more time with the other scenes.
Yeah. Especially if it was a big actor or whatever.
Exactly. So there's always things like that, but honestly, I feel like it's just part of the process. I wouldn't change anything about the movie now, other than just the obvious things. Like, I wish I had more money. I wish I had more time.
Yeah, right. Like us with the podcast. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the movie's good. I think it came out really good for the money that we had.
Hell yeah.
And the time that we had to make it.
Hell yeah. So it's 2019. You and I have set goals for this year. I'm curious as to what goals you have may set Did I just say a proper
Have
sentence?
May set.
May have set
Yeah.
for this year in regards to directing, in regards to the success in that endeavor?
Well, I want to finish the movie. That's the most important goal, which I definitely will. And I want to get into a good festival. It's looking like it'll be the fall season, so whatever festival that may be. Just have a big premiere of the movie, and then hopefully this is the year that I blow up. That's
Yeah, hell yeah.
that's the most important goal.
Us too.
Yeah, exactly. And you're never going to blow up on a short film. That's only just to get your name out there
And to practice your craft.
and to practice your craft and to get people on board with what you want to do. Like I used those movies to get crew for Alice. So the realistic next step is to use Alice to get my next movie made, and hopefully that means not investing all of my money into it. Getting investors on board who are willing to go along with my crazy visions. And all that will just be from the festival season that we do, But I think that's a realistic goal. I'm not expecting to make Fast and the Furious 18 next, but
Right.
a mid-sized $1 million movie next would be great.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully starting in 2020 would be fantastic.
One of my mentors recently said to me, Alan, there is no shortage of capital right now, but there's a shortage of projects. And he's obviously talking about the tech industry, something completely different. But the economy has been really good. Yeah. Seeing you transform over the last 8 years, 10 years really, you've been doing film. If you want to count the little shitty films we did as kids, you've been thinking about movies your whole life, though, basically. So this is the thing, right? The compound effect over time of storytelling. I mean, you used to literally, judge us if you will, read Harry Potter to me. Like, you used to... You didn't even... So you wouldn't read it to me, but you would give me the synopsis of the story. Because you loved stories. So remember The Goblet of Fire? That was your favorite one?
Yeah.
And we were kids, and you would tell me the story because I didn't want to read the book. And so you've been doing kind of storytelling arguably your whole life.
Yeah.
Right?
I used to do that to a lot of people, actually. I remember being a kid, and I used to, tell stories to people in class.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, my parents would let me watch, R-rated action movies. And Face Off was, my favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember just, telling kids in school, it was a true story, and then he took his face off. Put it on another man.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
So for 15 years or however long, you've been thinking about movies, taking action about movies for the last 10, actually making movies for the last 8, real movies, not including Winter Harvest. We won't count that. Right. Good. There's a reason why the film industry is going to look for people like you, because
Yes and no. I mean, well, hopefully, hopefully I have a vision that's unique enough that they want to see it. That's the ultimate goal, of a filmmaker. But it's easier now to make a movie. It's harder now than ever before to actually get people to watch it.
Exactly, because there's so much more content.
There's so much content with streaming.
Netflix is making their own stuff on demand,
and then what Hollywood's doing. Yeah. There's just so much content.
Similar
there's
to
too
podcasting.
much content. I mean,
there's only so many people that can listen and watch.
Exactly.
Things.
Right. So you have to rise above above the rest, which is possible, obviously. But when you're talking about worldwide content, that's a lot of people doing a lot of great stuff.
Yep.
So it's crowd marketplace.
So in your personal philosophy, how do you become? So let's just be frank, right? We always talk about reverse engineering the finish line. Yeah. It's been your dream to always be a world-class director.
Yeah.
So what is your game plan to eventually, what's the long-term vision? Keep making movies, getting them funded until you're good enough to where you get to, have final cut on your own feature films, or
it's always changing too, because the industry is always changing. 5 years ago I would have said it's just making the movies that I write and that's it, because I'm just a great storyteller and that's what I want to do. But I think there's value in adapting other people's works, and maybe that means going commercial at a certain point. I don't know if I could go Hollywood, but what I've been more interested in now than ever before is miniseries, stuff on streaming like Amazon or Hulu or Netflix. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Netflix much, but actually one of the kids who's in my movie is in the show The Haunting of Hill House.
Yep.
And I sat down to watch that just to support him.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe how goddamn good that show was.
Really?
So it was like...
And he was in your movie.
Yeah, and he's like one of the stars of the show. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm like, well, I could do that, make miniseries, and there's actually like a huge marketplace for that now.
Yeah.
People love long form stories,
Yeah.
probably more than movies.
Yeah, exactly. Because
You
it's
know?
like a movie that never ends.
It's just like
yeah.
a book that you can just read, and you can put it down and you can pick it back up. It's like with a movie, I don't like stopping a movie halfway through and then doing other things and then coming back to it.
Yeah.
Some people do, and that's fine. But that to me, that's not how a movie should be watched. But a show ends. You have 45 minutes to watch an episode. You can come back to it tomorrow night, or you can binge it if you want.
Yeah.
But that's kind of great storytelling. Like that's a great model to kind of work in.
Interesting.
And you can have like essentially 8-hour movies if you want to, or not. And each episode's its own thing.
I'm a
But-
big fan of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh,
low,
me
it's
too.
low commitment. Like, I think that's what it is, because I'm not always committed to sit down. If I
Yeah.
see a movie's 2.5 hours.
You're
Aquaman.
not going to watch it.
Aquaman.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But
Too long.
But if you watch the first episode of a TV show and you
Right.
love it, you'll just
Yeah.
keep watching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, I don't start many shows nowadays because
Yeah.
and there are some great shows, don't get me wrong, like The Wire is, 5 seasons, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But if you were to start The Wire right now, that's 5 seasons. That's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
shows that you have to watch. Or a show that's on right now that just keeps going. It's like, I don't know if I want to commit myself to that. But if there's a 10-episode show that has a beginning, a middle, and end, I can get on board with that
Right.
if people like it.
For
and
your
it seems-
downtime during your meals or whatever.
Totally, and if it
I have
seems
so
worth
many
it.
questions.
I know.
I don't-
told you this was gonna be awesome.
I came and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, man. Like, I don't know. Ryan and I don't know each other. Like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
But your mindset around this, I feel very drawn to you, because I feel like it's us.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to figure out,
it's the same path.
how to be uniquely us while providing as much value as possible to the listeners.
Yeah. And
Right?
how to exist in an existing marketplace and how
Yeah.
to break into it
But
and then
be different.
But exactly.
But
That's
ourselves.
always the challenge, man. It's really difficult. Stories are usually told in a 3-act structure. That's just traditionally how
what is
it
it?
is.
Page 17 is the catalyst of every script or something.
Yeah, they
like that?
say if you don't have the main point of the movie there by page 20, it's not even worth.
Interesting.
So, or the people say if they're not hooked within the first 5 pages, then they're not going to finish reading it. And that may be a very valid point, because there's just, especially for people that are the decision makers for these things.
Yeah.
And if they don't know who the writer is, why are they investing? Because there's just so many scripts that they have to read. But The Godfather, the first act of the movie, doesn't end until the 90-minute mark, which is what it would be by page 20 in a traditional script. And The Godfather is considered one of the greatest movies of all time. So there are obviously like outliers, but I think starting is you should follow those more,
Yeah.
because no one knows you. So
Yeah.
my favorite director is this guy called P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, and he directed Boogie Nights, and there will
I
be.
saw that movie in Block Island with you for the very first time.
That's right. Yeah.
We were too young to watch that.
I know. I was like, yeah.
Sure.
Remember that one?
Yeah, for sure. I remember my sister she's 3 years old.
Oh, that's
being
right.
Like,
She's
oh,
like,
no.
"You don't watch that."
Don't watch that. You're like, why not? It's fun. It's
Great.
Yeah, I'm a star. Anyways, keep going. So your favorite director?
That was his second movie, Boogie
Yeah.
Nights, which and then he did There Will Be Blood.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But There Will Be Blood, as great of a movie as that is, that's not a traditional movie. That's a pretty out there movie
I know.
in terms of structure. Whereas Boogie Nights, even though it's great, but it's more traditional storytelling. Like it follows the structure way more. So he started with those movies before he got to There Will Be Blood.
Kevin just learned in Florida about storytelling and
did.
the syntax. So
I did.
This is all for a reason. This is
Everything-
interesting.
everything's connected.
It's all connected.
Everything's connected. I wanted to ask you, so we were talking about, we're all dream chasing. I get called crazy a lot. How do you decide who to listen to? Because we have had people tell us we shouldn't work together because it's just not realistic. Like, there's a lot of things that we've been told that looking back on it, and I guess we're fortunate enough to have like this concrete thing where it's like, well, no, it's working.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody could say, like, you should take this scene out, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody might see the movie, and 100 people might say, that was the worst scene I've ever seen in my entire life. And you'd be able to say, maybe I should have listened to that person.
Yeah.
How do you know who to listen to? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, movies aren't made unless it's Aquaman, which you guys didn't like. But
Don't you?
Yeah, it was not good.
But
It wasn't
Aquaman
good.
is made to appease everyone in a certain regard,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a different story. But the movies that I'm making, indie films, they're not meant to appease everyone. So you have to accept that not everyone's going to like your movie anyway. So that just get that right out the door, and then you can.
I feel like that's kind of the way with this podcast.
Yeah, then you can start making something that's a little more personal to you. So then once you're on board with that, then it's like, okay, I mean, do your friends have the same opinions on movies as you do? You know, if they're like, I fucking hate There Will Be Blood, and you're like, oh, that was my biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah, exactly.
well, then don't be upset when they don't like the movie.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So, and then also another thing that most movies do, and that I'm just starting now, is doing test screenings. Because I'll have people saying, I didn't like that scene. I don't like that performance. But if they're the only person that says that, then you'd be like, all right, well, you know, whatever. That's just your opinion.
Can you walk us through the test screening that you did recently? Like, what is the logistics of that? Like, how many people do you put in a room to say, like, okay, let's get feedback?
Well, so I wasn't actually there for that when my producer did it, but I think there was about 10 people in the room.
Okay.
So it was kind of a more personal, intimate setting.
And how are these people chosen? Are they just 10 random people, or are they movie buffs, or what?
They're movie buffs. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah,
they're
they have to know, they have to like movies to do this, because, even me, I wouldn't really go to many test screenings.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, whatever. But
geeking out. Yeah. Right.
so, and then you offer them pizza or drinks or whatever. So, give them incentive to come and sit down and hopefully have a good mindset watching your movie.
Yeah.
And then you finish the movie and you just start asking questions, or you just let them talk. I mean, what happened with the screening of Alice, which I just heard about from my producer, is that the movie ended and he didn't say anything. A big problem that filmmakers will make is the director will instantly start talking.
Yeah.
And like more times than not, the director's insecure about the movie,
Yeah.
so he'll try to start justify things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then,
And then it'll be like a money thing. It's like, well, if we had $100,000 more, this movie would have been pretty. So then you start like talking people out of liking it.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, no one wants to give like an honest opinion because they feel bad for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right.
So you don't want them to think about
This
that
is
at
why
all.
Ryan didn't come.
Yeah, exactly. They would have to take the mic away from me. Please.
No, we couldn't do that because of this, and this. Yeah, man, sounds like us in the podcast.
So the
Sounds like
movie
Alan.
ended and the producer didn't say anything. And apparently one person asked a question of like, what was the deal with this scene? And he didn't answer, and someone else in the room answered. And then from there, it just started this big discussion where if someone had a question, someone else in the room would answer it. And so what we realized is that the entire movie's there, but, it's just a movie you might have to watch a couple times to fully understand.
Yeah.
Which is not what I never am like, I'm just going to make an intentionally confusing movie. But I like movies where I can go back to and learn something new every
it
time
gets
I
better
watch
every time.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we realized that everything's there, but and people were like, I just want to show it to more people and see what they think about it, which is like the best compliment you can get as a filmmaker. So that was very reassuring, and hopefully that trend continues.
Hell yeah, man.
So we got 10 minutes left, 8 minutes left.
Oh, cool.
8 minutes.
It flies,
This
man.
blew by.
Yeah, it goes
This
by
is
so
great.
fast.
Yeah.
So,
This has been so good.
right, I haven't laughed this much in a podcast in a minute.
Yeah,
This has been great.
Oh, cool.
So we both have questions that we ask every guest.
Yep.
I think we should do those, and then we'll let Ryan plug away all his projects.
Sounds good.
Do you want to do your question first? Or you want me to do mine?
Either way.
I'll do mine.
Okay.
So I have a feeling I have an idea of where this is going to go, but I've said that many times, and I've been wrong almost every time. So you've been given this this life you have. You've experienced a lot of different things. You decided you wanted to be a director. Mm-hmm. What do you hope to accomplish before you die with this life you've been given? It doesn't have to be just with directing, just as a whole. Like, what is your goal with your life?
Wow.
Going deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having a successful life in this business is probably my most important thing. That could change in 10 years, or 5 years or 1 year, where I realized that, family is the most important thing. Right now, movies are the most important thing, and continually making movies. And being able to support myself and my girlfriend or my wife or my family, So finding a happy balance between the two, Right now, I don't have many hobbies. I have my work, where I edit, and then I make my movies, and then I write. So I'm constantly...
And then you watch movies.
And then I watch movies.
Yep.
So, like, one of those things is my hobby. I don't know which one, but one of them. So maybe finding something else eventually would be a smart thing to do. Maybe pick up an instrument or something. But but right now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I like sitting down and just writing. So, if I have 5 great movies at the end of my life and 6 mediocre ones, then I'd say that's pretty successful. To me, it's about legacy, what you're leaving behind, and leaving behind a strong body of work is very important to me.
Hell yeah. Great fucking answer.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So for the listeners, real quick, I've known you arguably my whole life, definitely my whole adult life. And one of the things that I told Kevin this, I said, watch it happen. Ryan will be one of the most successful directors of all time. Now, the reason why I say that is one of the gifts that I think, I'm actually looking at this cup, it says, my gift to you, and it's a cat's butt. This is the one that Ryan gave me. But one of my gifts I've honestly always thought was talent recognition.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the strongest indicators of long-term success, not short-term, long-term success is being all in on something. Mm-hmm. I often talk about the Eulerian destiny, and I say, what do you end up talking about on a Friday or Saturday night? For you and I, we're always talking fitness.
Yep.
Oh, go figure, we're in shape.
Yep. More podcasting. That's what it's been.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I've spoken at different colleges, I've often used you as a reference when I do this Eulerian destiny. I say everything is movies with my buddy Ryan. And I love that. I've always loved movies. I think part of the reason I love movies and story is genuinely because of you.
Might annoy my girlfriend, but...
Yeah. But, like, that's why I think you're going to be successful is because...
Yeah, you have to live it.
It's kind of... when you say I want to find balance, it's interesting because, yes, you want to find balance, but within your thing. And for you, it's movies. I think that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, to get to my question, and I think that this is a really good segue to what we just discussed and your answer to Kevin's, is I wear this True North around my neck. It's the brightest star in the sky. It never moves. It never changes. It's unyielding. It's a guide. I kind of got that from The Patriot. I'm sure you're realizing that now because that's one of your favorite movies too. Or
The Patriot?
The Patriot.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good one.
No, I do like that movie a lot.
Yeah. But I think we grow and we evolve. Your movies have changed. You've changed. Yeah. Your, short-term ambitions have changed. But what about you never changed?
Well, I mean, just that is movies. I mean, I've had, every holiday, I'm still talking to aunts and uncles who are like, I cannot believe when you were a little kid, that's all you were talking about was movies. That's still all you talk,
Still all
what
you
the
talk
fuck?
About. Yeah. Right.
Shut up. No, more like, I can't believe you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, impresses people. So that's honestly what's never changed. I mean, other than that, I think I grow as a person, hopefully every day.
But your love of movies never changes.
It never changes. My taste in movies changes, and I don't watch Broken Arrow all that much anymore.
Yeah, I remember when you showed me that movie. It's still a good movie, man. Christian Slater, John Travolta.
Oh, Travolta.
I'm glad that you said that, because for the listeners out there, if you haven't found your thing, I think that
I got lucky.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
everyone has that. That's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would be without it. It's kind of, wandering around.
Yeah, right. Right.
Looking
what am I
for
gonna
something.
do here?
Yeah. That's why I'm so big on the True North, because if you haven't found it yet, you need to keep looking.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I think having that one guiding star is huge. And
Yeah,
that's why I know you'll
fine.
make it eventually, because there is nothing else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there is no, like... You don't even have another hobby,
Yeah,
man.
I'm not going to become a mechanic.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you do, I'll be the first one knocking on your door saying,
I
"What
remember
the fuck, man?"
as a joke one time when I was like 10, I told my brother, I'm like, you know what? I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
They're like, what? Are you serious? I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's super rare, man.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you've known.
But at the same time, most of the great directors of all time, that's true.
That's
of.
true.
Really? Okay.
Oh, by the way, with most of the most world class in every industry,
Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
George Lucas, like those guys, James Cameron, like that was all
they
they
knew
ever
their
wanted
thing
to
really
do,
early
yeah.
on.
That's
That's the
interesting.
compound effect. It's the
But you hear
compound
about
effect.
like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. I'm sure they wanted to play Tiger Woods.
Oh,
They
yeah.
wanted to play when they were young, but it's like everybody wants to be a baseball player when they're young. Almost everybody. So it's unique. It's very unique to see. Like,
and I'm
you
sure
knew.
the people that wanted to be astronauts, well, the people that are astronauts now wanted to be astronauts when they were
Right.
kids. So it's
Yeah.
more just like,
Yeah.
how serious are you
Yeah.
about it, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
Interesting. All right, so I think you had great answers to both of those. I was blown away.
Cool.
Plug away whatever you're working on, whatever you can talk about, where people can find your films that you want them to see, Instagram, Facebook.
So Instagram and Twitter is at Ryan Bliss Films. If you want to follow the movie, I believe it's at Alice Fades Movie on Instagram and Twitter. It's on Facebook, Alice Fades Away. You can type it in, it'll come up. And then look for it this year. It's 2019. It will definitely be in the festivals. I don't know if it will be out publicly, but if not 2019, definitely 2020. So a lot of people worked very hard on it. So I think people will really like it. That's hopefully the outcome, and that was definitely the goal. So keep your eyes out. And then I have a couple scripts that I'm writing that hopefully within the next year or so start to come to fruition. So that'll be cool.
Man
Hell
on a
yes.
mission.
I feel compelled to say something quickly. Out there, you all probably have a favorite movie. I can think of mine. I'm sure
What's
everyone
your
in this
favorite
room-
movie?
My favorite movie?
Yeah.
So The Patriot's one of them, for sure. But like the Good Will Hunting.
Troy.
Good Will Hunting. Yeah, right. Good Will Hunting, definitely. What I want people out there to realize is that behind something out there that you fell in love with that has literally changed your life, there was someone like Ryan who was chasing their dreams,
Yeah.
grinding it out. You bankrolled your own feature film. You're working at Harvard Business School. I've literally seen you work your ass off for years.
Yeah.
And what I want people to realize is that because Ryan Bliss is chasing his dreams, you now have that thing in your life. So whoever directed your favorite movie was kind of probably on a similar trajectory. So
Yeah.
just remember that.
I think, that's a good point. I think a lot of people, they just want to do it and that's it, whereas like there's so many different paths to get to it. And sometimes that means doing things that you don't want to do for a couple of years to get to that.
You told me a story once, real quick. So you were like in a bathtub. You were working for one of your friends,
yeah.
right? Like in a bathtub, right? So you want to be a world-class director.
That movie's coming out this year. Lupe is the name of it. Check it out. It's really good.
Hell yeah. Can you tell that story real quick?
Yeah. So he's worked on all of my stuff. He was my producer. This guy, Chuck Vulo. He was my producer on Rot, and then he worked on Clover as well. And so, I mean, I've owed him so much. And on Lupe, I was just helping out for a weekend in New York, Brooklyn, and they needed someone to wipe down the bathtub of like a really grungy kind of rundown apartment in Brooklyn somewhere, and that was what I was doing.
Yep.
Just in there scrubbing away because an actor needed to get in it, and it was not ready for anyone to get into.
Especially no one in the union.
That was years ago, by the way. I don't know if I'd do that again, but
Yeah, but honestly, like that's so cool to hear because
yeah.
one day when you are a world-class, arguably famous, successful director,
Yeah.
which I have all the faith in the world in you, brother. Just remember that bathtub. That's what got you there.
Whatever it
Being
takes.
willing to crawl
Yeah,
through the mud.
Whatever it takes.
is
And that's why
100% correct.
when you were saying like it's everything, like there is nothing else. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, of course you're gonna make it.
Yep.
What else are you gonna do? It's just a matter of when. And I feel like that's. I don't feel like it's like that for everybody.
No.
Because you have to be all in.
Yeah.
Like we all kind of traded in our old lives, and there are no other options now.
Yep.
And you have to figure it out. And I think we're all gonna do it.
Yeah, it's
Amen to
dedication.
that.
Yep,
Whatever it takes.
This was definitely, I've been saying this every episode,
Yep.
one of my favorite episodes to date. I haven't laughed this hard on an episode in a minute, so I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Thanks for,
being
having me.
vulnerable. Absolutely, man. You got anything else?
We'll have to have you back on after the film is out at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
Can't
I
wait.
cannot wait to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
I'm pumped.
awesome. Yeah.
The trailer is epic too. Can we plug the trailer? Is it not
Please.
public?
No, yeah, you can. No, it's not public, but it will be soon.
It will be soon. Okay, so keep an eye out for the trailer. It'll probably be tagged on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When it
Awesome.
is, when you can send me stuff, and I'll put it in the bio for this,
Cool.
so everybody that hears this can go
Yeah.
track
yeah.
you down.
Yeah, if you like thrillers,
Yeah.
suspenseful thrillers, this is the one for you.
Hell yeah.
I was blown away by the trailer. Genuinely,
Yeah.
man. I
Yeah.
can't wait
Awesome.
to see this film.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoy listening as much as we clearly enjoyed recording, and we will talk to you on the next one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyperconscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.